Hey everybody, I'm Tim Ward and welcome back to Garden Sense. Well folks, we've had a ton of emails this past week. A lot of questions about the overseeding process because I know Labor Day is right around the corner and some of you are going to be getting started on that. But we also had a couple of really unique questions as well. So we selected 3 for today's video podcast. So buckle up everybody, let's jump right in. The first question for today is from Scott. Tim, looking ahead to applying gallery, would it be beneficial to use a garden weasel to work gallery into a mulched bed? So the answer is actually no. You do not want to work in the gallery into the mulch. And the reason is pretty simple. Gallery is designed to create a chemical barrier on the surface. So you want all of the granules when you distribute the gallery to start to break down and that chemical is released and it starts to overlap and create that barrier on top of the mulch. If you try to work that in with a garden weasel, what happens is you're going to have all of these breaks inside of the barrier, and so it's going to be much easier for seed to find its way down. It's going to be easier for some of those weeds once they germinate to break through the soil surface again, because that barrier is no longer a barrier. And I appreciate what you're trying to do, and it makes sense. I understand that you're trying to just make it more effective, but to be perfectly honest with you, gallery is most effective when it is applied evenly across the soil surface. In this case, it's the mulch, and it's going to create that chemical barrier and prevent seeds from germinating. So it's a good question, but no, do not work it into the soil. Do not work it into the mulch. Sprinkle it over top of the mulch, let it start to break down and create that chemical barrier, and that is what's going to ultimately prevent any type of weeds from popping up. Question number 2 is from Steve. Dear Tim, I just moved from Maryland to Pennsylvania right outside Philadelphia. Do I need to use different products, or would the RTF and turf truss be just fine up here? All right, good question, Steve, but at the end of the day, you can use the exact same products because you really haven't moved that far from an environmental standpoint. And the species of grass you're going to encounter in Pennsylvania, it has a ton of tall fescue, so that RTF seed is going to be just fine. And turf truss, frankly, can be used anywhere. So go ahead and use both products on your new lawn. Follow the same calendar that you were following when you're in Maryland. It is possible, depending on how much snow you get in that Philadelphia area, you may have to adjust that calendar a couple of weeks one way or the other. But again, for the most part, you want to follow it to the day and go ahead and use all of the same products that you're using in Maryland. You're going to want to use those in your new home. Congratulations on the new home. We certainly hope you enjoy it. The final question for today is from Joan. Hi, Tim. Could Kickstart possibly help in treating an old Cornus Kousa, which seems to be slowly declining? Small branches dying, fewer flowers, overall less foliage. Our repeated recent dry summers, Massachusetts, haven't helped, but I'd like to give the tree a boost. You can absolutely use Kickstart to help this flowering dogwood. Now, remember, it's an older tree, and sometimes older trees, they just start to slow down, and there's not a whole lot that you can do to help them. But if it is possible to help them, Kickstart is definitely the first product that I would recommend. Now, because it's a variety of dogwood, I would also recommend that you fertilize it with Garden Trust. You did not mention if you're giving it any type of fertilization. If you aren't, make sure that you fertilize it in the spring. That's when the buds start to come out, and that's when those trees really start to shine. But Kickstart, as a general rule, absolutely. In fact, I would put it down at least once a month over that entire growing season. It should help the foliage. It's absolutely going to help the root system. And again, that Garden Trust is really going to help the flowering. Now, it is a deciduous tree, and so I realize it's going to lose its leaves here in a couple of months as fall sets in. Another thing to possibly consider would be to, instead of giving it Garden Trust now, give it a little bit of Plant Trust. Plant Trust is actually going to help the foliage really start to just come out a little bit more strongly, a little bit more green, a little bit more full, which is what you want out of a dogwood anyway. So if you're going to put down plant truss to try to help the foliage overall, you can actually put that down in the fall. So as that tree starts to go dormant, you can actually put down some plant truss. It's going to take that nutrition and put it into the root system. And then what's going to happen is when spring comes around and that foliage starts to grow, it's really going to green up very, very quickly. Then once things really start to warm up, you start to see the blooms, the flowers are out. That's actually when you can give it garden truss. So kickstart, I would definitely do now. I would consider plant truss as a tree starts to go dormant. And then again, I would absolutely use garden truss in the spring when it begins to flower. And the nice thing about garden truss, because it's a balanced NPK fertilizer, you can actually use it again over the summer to really help strengthen it. Whatever you're feeding it, kickstart is going to just magnify it that much more. And we happen to feel that garden truss and plant truss are the best products on the market for feeding trees and shrubs and feeding flowering plants. So that would be my recommendation. All right, everybody, just a couple final thoughts before we wrap up this week's video podcast. Folks, I do want to remind you that coming up on Labor Day is the perfect time to give your lawn its third feeding. So you can head over to rosensonline.com right now and you can take advantage of our annual fall feeding frenzy. It contains 3 bags of turf truss fertilizer. It can be the starter or the maintenance, and it comes in both sizes that we have available, which is a 5M or a 10M. Again, that's 5,000 square feet or 10,000 square feet. We've also thrown in a bottle of Kickstart, again, because Kickstart is just such an important product. We sell so much of it. We wanted to just make it part of, the fall feeding frenzy. And frankly, moving forward for a lot of our promotions, we'll probably include a bottle of Kickstart with that as well. Again, just because it offers so much benefit to your plants. Now, it's also a great time to overseed your lawn. So if you are considering overseeding, make sure you check out our video from a couple of weeks ago and it'll safely walk you through that process. Now, if you still have questions, obviously you can send them directly to me. And so we've gotten a lot of questions about overseeding, so I know that a bunch of you are doing it. So if you're overseeding, make sure you watch that video. All of the products are available at Rosens Online. If you're not overseeding, it's still time to fertilize your lawn. And again, Labor Day is your third feeding, and then you're gonna do a fourth and final feeding, sometime in November. So again, take advantage of the savings and the free shipping that the Fall Feeding Frenzy offers, and head over to rosensonline.com and order what you need. Now, I've already mentioned Kickstart in a previous question. I do want to remind you folks that it's really, really important to put down Kickstart if you're overseeding, but it's really important to use Kickstart on all of your plants. If you're going to be transplanting anything, make sure that you use Kickstart. If you have indoor plants, you can use Kickstart the same way that you would use CMate. It's a very, very versatile product, and this time of year, it's really, really critical that you're using it on your lawn, on your trees, on your shrubs, all of your indoor plants as well. Now, speaking of trees and shrubs, folks, as we enter into fall, a lot of the deciduous trees and shrubs are going to start turning color. They're going to start losing their leaves, and that's a really good time that you want to give them plant truss. So we have a bunch of plant truss in stock right now over at rosensonline.com. We also have some more that's going to be coming. So if you are not familiar with plant truss, head over to the website, check it out. It is a great feeding fertilizer for deciduous trees. So your trees, your shrubs, and again, if you have any of those that lose their leaves in the fall, then plant truss is absolutely what you want to give it. Folks, as always, if you have questions, make sure you send them directly to me, Tim at rosensonline.com. Folks, I get dozens of emails a day from people with questions about various things. I do my best every single day to answer as many of them as I can. So just give me a couple of days. But again, I always say this, if I receive your email, I promise that I will respond to it. Folks, we really appreciate all the time that you spent with us today. It means a lot to us. I hope that you folks have an amazing rest of the week. God bless.